Hello Year 6 and happy Tuesday. So we're moving on to our next lesson now for the last wild. So the first activity you need to be doing is in front of you. You have got a noun phrase jigsaw. So we've got two little jobs here. So the first job is, can you build sentences using these descriptive noun phrases? So inside each of those shapes is a descriptive noun phrase. You need to try and build them together to build yourself a sentence. So you need to be using all of those together to build a sentence. For example, one animal, comma, with wide horns, comma, jabbing and curving in all directions, stood proudly between trees, and then you can keep adding. So what you can see is each of those pieces of a jigsaw you need to fit together to make a sentence, okay? So have a go. I think it's quite easy to start with one animal. So you might want to start one animal with wide horns, jabbing and curving in all directions, who bellowed deep from his chest, stood proudly between the trees. Okay, so use those now. So have a couple of minutes to try and write yourself a sentence using all of those jigsaw pieces, or as many of those jigsaw pieces as you can. Once you've done that, I want you to have a little think and decide, what animal do you think these things could be about? What animal are all these noun phrases about? So pause this video and have a little go at doing that, please. Okay, so hopefully you've got something written down. I'd like you to send it to me at the end of the lesson just so I can have a little look. Now, what do we think the mystery animal is? Has anyone decided? Does anyone know? I think the mystery animal is a stag, which is a male deer. Okay, let's find out a little bit more. Let's go on to the next slide. So these are some sentences I put together using these noun phrases. So I put, with wide horns, jabbing and curving in all directions, one animal stood proudly between the trees. So you can see for that first one, I used this one here, and then I used jabbing and curving in all directions, this one, and then I said stood proudly between the trees. Then I've got another one here, which is one animal, twice the size of any other creature here, stood proudly between the trees. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to build sentences using as many of those noun phrases as you can. You could probably use more than that. So for some of those, I only use 3, but I reckon you could do more. I reckon you could probably put 3 or 4 or 5 together to make a sentence. Right, let's look at the next part of our lesson. So these are 3 animals. We've got a deer, which is a female, that's a female deer there, and we've been talking about a stag, which is a male deer. You've got a badger, you see here, very distinctive colouring, the fact that it's got black and white. Okay, then you've got a hare. Now a hare is a large rabbit, okay, so it's a wild rabbit. They're bigger than an actual rabbit, but they're called hare. They're just very similar. So if you look at it, it's quite similar looking to a rabbit. It's a bit bigger. So why does Kester not know the names of the animals? Why wouldn't Kester know the names of these animals? Have a pause, have a think, and see if you can work it out. Okay then, so why do we think Kester doesn't know these animals' names? Well, actually, it's not too difficult to think about. If you start thinking about it, it's quite obvious. Kester doesn't know these animals because in the world that Kester's living in, animals are extinct. Animals have all caught the red eye, and the red eye is a disease that meant that the animals had to be killed because they could infect the humans and the humans would die. So the reason he doesn't know these animals is because he's never seen them. He's never seen any of these animals out in the wild because they don't exist anymore. So in the book, which we're not going to read, and we'll read when we get back to school a little bit more, but in the book, Kester ends up in the wilderness. He gets taken by the pigeons who've flown him there. And when he gets there, he sees for the first time a stag, which is a male deer. He sees a hare, he sees a badger, and he sees lots of deers by the water. And Kester is shocked because he doesn't even know the names of these animals because he's never even heard of them. He's never seen these animals because his entire life these animals have been extinct. So that's why he doesn't know any of these animals. So it's a very different world that Kester's living in to the world that we live in. And that's the thing that we have to remember. Kester is living in a very different place to us. Okay. Right, these are 2 descriptions of the stag, and these are 2 descriptions from the book. So I'll read them out to you. A stag. I'd heard of them, but to see a real one, right in front of me. Enormous, dark brown, twice the height of any other animal here, with wide horns, jabbing and curving in all directions. And this is the second piece of description. The stag bellows deep from his chest, a barking roar, which sounds half like he's in pain, half like he's super angry. This close up is definitely deafening. His teeth are all cracked and worn down, with scraps of twig stuck between them. So, the question that we've got is, how does the author knit together some of these phrases? So how does the author knit together these phrases? Have a think and have a pause this video, and then we'll talk about it together. Okay, I'm going to assume you're done. I'm just going to get the highlighter. So all these little bits of description are like this noun jigsaw that we saw earlier, but they've been joined together, and the way that they've joined them together is through punctuation. I'd heard of them, but to see a real one right in front of me. Then we've got this bit here, enormous dark brown, twice the height of any other animal here, with wide horns, jabbing and curving in all directions. So the author has linked these together, knit together these phrases by punctuation. So they've used a dash here for enormous dark brown, twice the height of any other animal here, and then they've put the phrases in between commas. So they've put different bits of description in between commas. They've used things like with as well. So it's got with wide horns. So again, we've connected them together, this one. Let's have a look at this one. We've got a barking roar, and then we've got which sounds half like he's in pain. So, what is which there? What is that? What is it when we use the word which or who or what? I wonder if you remember. It's a relative clause. We've got a relative clause there. So they're using a relative clause there to get extra description in. So we've got a relative clause. Sounds half like he's in pain, half like he's super angry. And then again, we've got the commas between the separate pieces of description. This close up, it's definitely deafening. His teeth are all cracked and worn down. And again, we've got with here. See how we had with here? We had with wide horns. Here we've got with scraps of twig stuck between them. So we're using the word with to join extra information into our description there. So you can see here that one of the ways that the author is knitting together these phrases is through commas and punctuation, but also through the use of the words like with, and also through uses of relative clauses and relative pronouns, for example, which. Okay, and that's an extra way that the author is getting more information into these pieces. Right, move on. So he uses noun phrases that are made up of different things. So he uses things like this. He uses a noun and a noun. So like creature of the forest. So we've got a noun, which is creature, and then forest, which is a noun. So it's a noun plus a noun. So this bit here is noun plus noun. He uses prepositional phrases like right in front of me, out of the undergrowth. These prepositional position, okay, telling you where something is. So right in front of me, the deer is right in front of me. Out of the undergrowth, the animals are coming from underneath the undergrowth, which undergrowth is like bushes, okay? So we're using position there to help us with those little bits. Then we've got an adjective and an adjective plus a noun. So we've got cracked, worn down, and then teeth. So we've got cracked and worn down teeth. Both of these things are describing our teeth. So we're putting two adjectives before the noun. Then we've got black and white, which is one. Black and white, which is one, sorry. And then we've got striped. So we've got black and white, striped, badgers. So adjective, adjective, noun. The last thing that he uses, one of his other types of noun phrases, is he uses a quantifier and a noun. Quantifier is to do with quantity. Okay, quantity is how many of something there are. So quantity is how many. So many animals, some birds, a few hares. Okay, these words here are quantifying. They're telling us the amount of something, how many things there are. Okay. So your job today is to use a variety of noun phrases to describe. So you're going to use interesting adjectives. So you need to think carefully about the adjectives you are using on your piece of work. In fact, I will show you your piece of work. So on your piece of work, you can see it's here. Zoom in for you. So on your piece of work, you'll be given the animals, and I've put the names on for you. So you've got deer, you've got badger, hare, ants, golden eagle, bat. You've got different adjectives that I've chosen for you that I think would be useful. You've got noun and noun phrases. I've given you some examples. So creatures of the forest, birds of the sky, victims of the virus, animals with the infection. I've given you prepositional phrases like high up in the sky. So you could say the golden eagle, high up in the sky. Right in front of me, ants, right in front of me. Out of the undergrowth, perhaps came the deer. Along the rocks near the ground. So I've given you some different examples. Then you've got quantifiers and noun phrases. So you've got many animals stood by the shoreline, some birds, a few creatures, and I've given you some different ones like several, the majority, each, every. So your piece of work today, you'll be picking different animals to then describe them with these noun phrases. So we're going to be doing that today. So you need to be using those interesting adjectives. You don't have to use the ones that are on your sheet. You can use better ones. You can think of something different. You need to use noun and noun phrases. You need to use prepositional phrases, a quantifier, and a noun phrase as well. You need to write a passage today about these chapters. Okay, describing the stag and the other creatures from the wild that Kester encounters. So the animals that I've shown you, that you've got pictures of, you're imagining Kester meeting these animals. What would he say? How would he describe them? Remembering that he doesn't know what any of these animals are. So how would he describe these animals? We need to think about that, and that needs to be what you're doing in your writing today. I've written an example, so I'm going to read it through, and then I'm going to highlight all of my everything that I've got from this little bit here. So, out from the undergrowth, creatures begin to emerge. Badgers, a whole family snuffled together with black and white striped heads and pale pink noses. Birds of the sky begin to swoop down. A rainbow of feathers flash through the air, lower and lower. Around the water's edge, white hares with elongated ears join the many dazzling butterflies and lines of soldier ants marching along the rocks. Suddenly it's there, a stag, the largest of all the creatures, towering above the others. Deep brown fur, black cavernous eyes with wide horns, jabbing and curving in all directions. Okay, so let's look. So let's look first. I can see a prepositional. So if I put a little blue here, prepositional phrases are in blue. So let's put it a bit bigger. We've got out from the undergrowth, creatures begin to emerge. Badgers, a whole family snuffle together with black and white striped heads. Right, that is, we've got some adjectives there. So if we put adjectives here, then we've got black and white striped heads, and we've got pale pink noses. Then we've got birds of the sky. They are noun and noun phrases because we've got bird, and then we have got sky. So we've got birds of the sky begin to swoop down, a rainbow of feathers. So that again is another one of those. Through the air, lower and lower. Around the water's edge. Ooh, what is that? It's prepositional, isn't it? Because it's telling us the position of something. So you need a prepositional phrase. Around the water's edge. White hares with elongated ears. That just means long. Elongated means long. If you look, it's got the root of long in it. So we're doing those in purple. White hares with elongated ears. Join the many dazzling butterflies. We've got dazzling butterflies and lines of soldier ants marching on the rocks. So we've got along the rocks, which is prepositional. Got loads here, haven't we? Suddenly it's there, a stag, the largest of all the creatures, towering above the others. Dark brown fur. So we've got dark brown fur. Black cavernous eyes with wide horns, jabbing and curving in all directions. Okay. And I have also missed one out because we've got quantifier and noun phrases. So remember, quantifier tells you how many there are. So there is actually one of these because I've seen it. So we've got many dazzling butterflies. Okay, so that's telling us how many we are. And I don't know if we've got any others. Yeah. So your work today is to do one of these. So you need to be writing a paragraph or more. If you've got time, write more about Kester encountering these animals for the first time. So the main focus of this lesson is to use a variety of noun phrases. So that must be what you do in this lesson. You must be using those noun phrases. There's lots of different ones that you should be doing, and you must write in full sentences. Some of you, when you've sent me your work, it's not all been in full sentences. It needs to be wrote properly and neatly with full sentences for everything. Just be careful. Even though you're doing this at home, we need to still be using the basics like capital letters and full stops. And we need to make sure our commas are in the right place as well. A lot of you have got complex and compound sentences as your target, which I'll be telling your parents about in parents' evening. So you need to make sure you are using those as well, okay? If you're not sure about them, you can go back onto some of the other lessons, or you can look online to find out some more information about compound and complex sentences. So that should work for today. I think you should enjoy it. I think it's nice doing this sort of work. I love descriptive work. It's fun. It's a bit different, and it really up levels your writing. If you write like this, your writing instantly is so much better than before. So really focus on this today. Make it really good, and I'm really looking forward to reading them all. So get them all sent to me, and I will read them all, and I'll email you back to tell you how you've done. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed your lesson, and I will see you soon. Bye.